I'm here this morning at Cavallino Motors on a Saturday morning. You can see that pretty familiar showroom facade around me. It's been around here about, I'd say, getting on for 10 years. It's a familiar site on Phetchaburi Road, the Ferrari main dealer, the sole one in Thailand. But this is pretty special because they've had a lot of cars over the last 10 years. But what we're waiting for this morning is the Thai launch of the 296 GTB. This is the first six-cylinder Ferrari for nearly half a century. In fact, since the Dinos, the 206 and the 246. And Ferrari say they weren't really Ferraris because they were badged and sold as Dinos. So they're saying this is the first six-cylinder Ferrari. So either way, first Ferrari ever with six cylinders or first one in half a century. Either way, it's a big deal. This car is very interesting because it's pushing Ferrari towards a new market. And I think here in Thailand, in Bangkok particularly, it's going to be very interesting because we have got a very affluent, a very prosperous society that is growing in wealth. So we're getting more and more people coming on the supercar ladder. So although people are moving fast into Ferraris in Thailand, they're growing, volumes are growing, this is going to give it a big fillip. And I think if Ferrari got this car exactly right, it's going to be a real winner here. It's going to get lots of orders. So this is a really significant moment for Ferrari in Thailand and Ferrari globally. And although it hasn't really been, well, it hasn't officially launched in terms of delivery starting, they start in a few months' time globally, and it probably won't come here until next year. The reports from people who've driven it, from the media, are really positive, and we've got a very significant car. It's basically a 3-litre V6, and it's got quite a wide V at 120 degrees. It's got the internal combustion engine, and then it's got an electric motor which is 165 horsepower slapped onto it. So we've got a hybrid, a plug-in hybrid Ferrari, not the first one, but this is the way things are going, and eventually we're going to go all electric, but now we're going for plug-in hybrids. So I think all the ingredients are absolutely right. We've been looking at this car for about half an hour now, so time to put a few first impressions onto this video. Now I've got to say, first of all, we're upstairs in Cavallino Motors. We're on a second floor viewing room. The room is small and cramped. It's painted black and all artificial light, and there's loads of people around the car, so you just can't sit back and get a feel for the overall form. So I really want to look at details mostly, but certainly you can see that this car is different. You can feel the short wheelbase, you can feel those compact dimensions, but it feels very muscular, very distinctive, very different. So for the first V6 hybrid Ferrari ever, the first V6 Ferrari in half a century, they really have got something that's different. Something that's different but still a Ferrari. So kind of like the Dino of the old days, the last V6. Kind of like that, they have really created that whole feeling. The first thing I thought of when I saw it was there's a lot of 4C in the shape as well, so that's certainly a reference point. But to start at the front, the aero, it's big and it's strong and quite aggressive. Clearly it's been designed for aerodynamics in mind. You can see that, but it's got a very strong, very shark-like front. Some of the details, I can see the T-tray. I'm not a car aero expert, but I can recognize the T-tray and the way it filters the air underneath the car. And what made me chuckle, the brake ducts are actually inside the headlights, on the inner side of the headlights I mean, and that kind of made me laugh because that's very Bangkok style. Every second Evo or Impreza or kind of Hondas or Toyotas, people pull the inner headlight out, they put ducts in there. Drag cars, they put ducts in there. So these are to cool the brakes, but our whole style of having ducts where the inner headlights are, it's just pure Bangkok style, and now Ferrari has come to the party in that respect. If we look at the sides, it's just so much 250 LM in there. Really the 3/4, if we look at the air intakes that feed the intercoolers, the big haunches, the flying buttresses, the whole way they go up over the roof line, the engine bay cover, it's just so much of the 250 LM in there. And I like that because I think the 250 LM is a little bit underrated. Everyone goes for the GTO model, that's the famous one, but the 250 LM, fantastic racing history, and I prefer it to the GTO. And I think it's nice to being able to lift so many ideas from that car, drop it into this. If we look at the back end, it's got a cam tail. The lights, they come from the Roma style, Ferrari getting away from their round lights. On the Roma, they put these different style of lights in. Now they've carried that family trait forward, and it's quite nice. There's a spoiler that comes out between the lights to give extra downforce, but that hasn't been operated today, so I won't go into that. If we look into the engine bay at the engine now, the first thing is like, wow, where is the engine? Because the engine is so low and pushed so far forward, as Ferrari have just gone totally to the max on getting the centre of gravity down, getting the front and rear balance down. So I think with so much effort to do that, so much effort in packaging along with the short wheelbase, it's going to be a really fun car to drive, but that's for other people, so we'll leave that. Certainly the engine looks very compact, looks very neatly packaged, and they put an engine on a plinth as well, so we can look at it closely, and it looks really small. The 120-degree V really gives it that flattish feel. The turbos are packed in the top of the V very neatly, but what's interesting is the electric motor, because this car has a 654 horsepower engine power, and then it's got 165 horses that come from this electric motor, and this electric motor is packaged between the engine and the transmission. It's a round circular thing. It's really small, really compact, and it's just like, wow, electric technology is just moving so fast, and this gives 165 horses out, so that's pretty cool. So the 3-litre V6 engine, it's new. Total combined power when everything's humming away is 818 horsepower. That's a hell of a lot, and the range supposedly on electric power only is 25 kilometers. So this is something pretty special. This is something very, very new. Moving on from the engine, the last bit I want to look at is the cockpit. And if you know me, you watch my videos, you know I love the Lotus style cockpits. I love the Belize. It's just completely driver's cockpit, nothing unnecessary there. And this is kind of very similar. It's got that long straight dashboard straight the way across. The center console is just flat on the floor. There's nothing rises up. So you've got this really open cockpit feel, nothing unnecessary. It's got a digital dash in front of the driver, and from what I remember, if I remember rightly, very similar to the SF90. And I like the binnacle around it as well, because that's like carbon fiber and ribbed, so you've got a real racing feel there. There's some digital display on the other side for the passenger, so you're going to feel like you've got a co-driver feel with readouts of instruments when you're sitting on the passenger side. And I really love the seats as well, because they've got a carbon fiber shell to them. It feels more like a skeleton. I sat in them for a couple of minutes, feel really good, but not too long. But certainly my first impressions were good. But as everyone else in the room is a potential 296 buyer, and I'm the only person here who isn't, I don't want to take up too much time, but certainly the cockpit feels great. The only thing is the steering wheel has got so many buttons and so many switches on it. It feels very, very busy. It's going to take you a bit of time to learn how to use that. But I guess Ferrari drivers, they're used to a lot going on the steering wheel, but this one takes it to the max. So cockpit is really nice. I love that feel. I love that stripped out, that purposeful, that minimalistic feel. So I think it's going to be a great car. And certainly looking at all the people here, like I say, everyone here apart from me is a potential 296 buyer. Everyone's very interested in the car. Everyone's interested in the details and the features. So I think once these arrive, which is probably going to be into 2023, we're going to see quite a few of these. These are going to become a feature on the Bangkok roads.